So Rob, I was hoping we could talk a bit about free stroke, because relative to thumb and rest stroke, I find that it seems to be a pretty major issue when it comes to teaching, of students. And certainly I myself and a lot of my colleagues share that same experience.
Right.
We're never quite sure how a student is really truly going to develop in terms of free stroke. A lot of it is left up to chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, looking at it from a historical point of view, everybody started free stroke originally, but they started with pinky bracing, so that doesn't really count.
Yep.
And then when Tariga brought in rest stroke, it wasn't very long before people like Pascual Roach and the subsequent writers of methods in the Tariga style found out that it was much easier to start with rest stroke than it was free stroke. Okay, now you take it one step further than that, and I recall the conversation with my teacher very, very well, where we deduced the fact that actually it would be much easier to start with the thumb. So that's the evolutionary line, that has sort of gone on there. And if you work it back, then you're actually starting free stroke with a very big advantage compared with the ones who just had to go out and try to do it cold turkey.
Yep.
And the fact that my hand is like this, okay, now all I really have to do is I just have to lower it a little bit, and we'll show ways where we can come out of rest stroke into free stroke, still with quite a bit of support from the arm. Now, the way I would do this initially is that I'm going to do my thumb and my finger together, and I want to have the sense right away of twisting and pressing, right?
Twisting
and pressing, right? Here are the strings. I want to press the strings down, and I want to invoke twist.
Why do you want to press the strings down?
Okay, down is for the idea of
yes,
soundboard support. Right?
Okay.
That if I have no soundboard support, take this for instance. See, now I'm not doing that lightly, but there's no tone. Why is there no tone? There's no tone for exactly the same reason that there would be no tone if on a drum, if I simply sweep dust off of it. That you've got to bang down to make the...
So for tone you need to...
vertical pressure.
Press.
Right,
okay.
That's the press, okay? Now, the question of twist, if, let's say I bring somebody in just off the street, and I say, okay, look, you're going to get a sizable reward if you can sit and just play 2 notes together. What are they going to do? They'll put their fingers here and they'll go like that, and they'll say, pay up. Yeah, of course, they did it, didn't they? But let's not talk about the tone. Okay, so what the instinctive response here is what we call pinch. Yeah? And we do that when we thread needles, when we hold pencils, and it's quite a good intuitive approach to things. Okay, pinch. Now, what happens if I also twist is that, does pinch disappear?
Still there.
It's still there,
Yeah,
just as strong as ever, but it's sublimated by a much greater force, which is twist. Right?
I see. So the twist combined with the press.
With the pinch.
With the pinch.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then those two working along with press.
With the press.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gives me the best approach to free stroke that I can possibly. And I myself, even when I come up here and play, a lot of times I still like to do that. I mean, there's always this option, if I'm, here's my normal. Now, if I want to go, if you like that, what I call throwaway sound, which unfortunately is what I'm hearing whole concerts.
As a default, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the point being that it is there as an option, and it is definitely worth thinking about.
Oh, this pinch and twist and press idea just is really worth 1,000 words.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And the idea that I could that still has pinch. If I want to go, you can hear it thin out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's what you want, Lau. You know, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. We have to take it on individual merits, you know.
Right.
But the big thing is not to be stuck in it. You know, I this Japanese lady who played here the other night, and the whole evening the right hand was spent like this, you know, and you hear the phrasing, you know, and you realize that there's this very musical, wonderful being up there who is simply trapped in pathetically slender physics. You know, wow, I mean,
if only, huh?
Yeah, if only, and of course some of them do better and so on and so forth, but it's just that it's fundamentally been lost because it is so intuitive to do work with the right hand in this position.
Well, I think for a start, we need to start moving away from a cursory teaching of free stroke.
Yeah.
Right now, how I'm teaching it, or rather, I'll say now how I used to teach it, is just free stroke is not rest stroke.
Right.
It doesn't touch the string.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. And then we move on. Play the piece.
That's very true. It doesn't, but there's a bit more to it than that.
As you're demonstrating to me right now.
Yeah. Okay, so now we need to remind ourselves, okay, about the good old hold a pencil issue here, that we can flex at the bass joint while keeping the tips firm. Okay, we've already gone over that. And that we also have got to master the trick of extending without helping out with the wrist. And why do we tend to do this? Because the extension muscles are so weak compared to the gripping muscles. So we grip, that's fine, but then to extend outwards, we sort of help those poor little devils out. You know, and why is it, of course, that flamenco technique is so brilliant? Because what is the one thing that you can think of that you can do to strengthen extensor muscles? Right? That's about the only thing I can think of, you know. And it just so happens that every flamenco guitarist spends thousands of hours strengthening,
training the extension muscles.
Extension muscles, yeah. So that's something we can think about, you know, that it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring Rascale into earlier. Yeah, I mean, that gets into a whole nother thing now about what the generalized Rascale compared to the specialized Rascale, and to teach kids to use the little finger is absolutely hopeless. I guarantee you won't get anywhere, but you can do quite a bit with the three-finger thing, or you know, the thumb. That's all. What I call classical Rascale. Right. Yeah, that's another big area, you know, that I don't think we're going to...
Maybe it's not the point at which we're going to talk about it,
Right. Okay, so now I do that's the... And for now, we'll just let the Sparkies ring and never mind and so on and so forth. But the point is that I want to move from the prepared to the unprepared position. Okay? Now that's tricky, because this is where all the hooking and popping and pinching and stuff goes on, because you don't have the frame of reference anymore. So what we have to do is go into what I call the can't miss position. You see, I use this as my frame of reference.
Preparing.
Right side of the eye, right side of the thumb. And then I bring the fingers to within just a millimeter of the string, and I insist that my response will be identical. Okay? Free stroke. Arrow from bow. It's got to be instant, total acceleration from the impetus of the stroke.
There is some explosiveness in the way you're doing it.
Isn't it? Compared with rest stroke, where we've got all the time in the world for the hammer to descend, it's a totally different psychology, you know? And people have to understand this from the very beginning, you see. So by doing this, and then moving to, you see?
Split second.
Right, instant response. If I miss, I miss. If I make a mess out of it, I make a mess out of it. But the big thing is it's got to be uninhibited, instantaneous. And I do it not only with the eye, but also, here's my M, and then, right? Okay, so the essence of free stroke is that anything can be started prepared. just simply to nail down this very, very tough, iffy mechanics. That from the very, very beginning, I've got to have the sense of going in and going to the right. Those are the firm tone directions, right? And then I have to avoid popping or going to the left, which are the weak tone directions, right? And I must say that, you know, playing like this, it tends to foster all the wrong directions. You know, you tend to end up going like this rather than...
True.
Yeah, so that just makes it worse, you know, and okay, now, let's say, for instance, employing this in the bass, okay? I'm bringing my thumb and my eye finger, I'm just tucking in a little bit so that... very beginning I'll have that firmness in the tone, right? And the other point that I might make here is that preparation, now we're going to talk a lot more about this, but preparation is integral to playing rests.
Yes.
And I want to play as efficiently as possible, right? So that in a piece like this, I'm going to be very, very careful that when I've cut off, I won't replace my fingers or make a fresh impetus, you know, that what I'm doing here is I'm playing off. Now I play from the string this time, right? And if necessary, like here, for instance, I've got those sparkies, so probably I'll want to play, right? I always have to be mindful on, I just get used to it after a while, right? So what I end up with is...
Yeah, it's a very efficient way of doing things because you're going there anyway. Your fingers
Exactly.
are going to those strings anyway, yes.
Yeah, irreducibly simple.
Yes.
So once we've got it tied down to the point that it's irreducibly simple, then we will practice it the same way, because there's no rubbish, no you know, excess motions in the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you teach that sympathetic movement is very important.
Right.
For efficient free stroke.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Okay. There's various types of sympathetic movement, but the one that I like to start with is what I call big sympathetic, which is the idea that as the fingers stroke, the thumb positions. Okay. As the thumb strokes, the fingers position. Now again, this would be a no-brainer, wouldn't it? You know, that doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many people don't figure it out if you don't have the right material to do it.
Right.
Okay, so to really tie this thing down, let's say that we'll start prepared and we will move towards a preparation with the thumb.
Okay.
And then we will prepare the fingers as we stroke with the thumb. So this gives me my destinations in a very concrete way, right? Okay, now why has that been helpful? That when I go to the unprepared, I can then be 1 millimeter off the string.
Your fingers can remember
exactly
where they last were.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and they can take that leap of the imagination, and even though they're off the string, they can believe that the string is there, which it is, and act as a mousetrap,
yes,
or as an arrow out of a bow.
I would imagine this takes quite a bit of reinforcement.
Yeah, it does. You know, and you have to really encourage people to keep working on it and so on. But it comes through sooner or later because it's irreducibly simple physics, right? Now, if we want to just consider applications, right?
Yes, I was thinking application.
Let's say in 3 triple meter, I have a situation here where, look, I could play, and I could bring my thumb back on the 3rd count. But in actual fact, it's better to delay the thumb. Bring the thumb back on a need to use basis. And we actually already have all the ingredients of a musical experience there,
Yes.
don't we? Because the waltz articulation.
Yep.
You know, I learned from my...
Yes. You were playing it strong, medium,
Yeah.
and weak. You know?
Still works.
Yes.
Nothing's changed.
And I'm very curious to know, again, as I was earlier on, how
Oh.
soon does it take for the student to reach something this
Well,
application?
to start working on it, you know, I would say is within just a few weeks.
But then once you get it right, it's a very nice musical experience
Exactly.
for anyone.
Exactly.
I can see how it's very achievable.
And particularly for kids, you know, who haven't
for
been
kids,
polluted by all
especially.
these egoistic urges and so on. You know, but I keep stressing the idea that although I personally can't say that I've, you know, made much progress in that direction, at least try to pave the way. And for more determined ones, perhaps, who come along, or you know, I mean, where I live and so on and so forth, the system is already so worked out, you know, that it tends to exclude efforts like mine as being just irrelevant to capitalism. You know? But you know, you never know. Taking the world as a whole, you know, where this is all going to go. It's, and I won't be around, you know, to realize the fruits of my labor. But I can hope, you know.
Yes, and I think being a very connected world
Yeah.
will make it a lot easier.
Yeah, and the point, you know, that we have to recognize is that the main mic instruments are started early.
Yeah.
You know, there's never been a violinist who's reached concert stature who started later than the age of 6.
Okay.
And there's only been one who was 6. All the rest have started when they're 3 or 4.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you're talking French horn or something, where tuba, you know, that's not the same thing. But you know, or when do we start piano? You know, that kind of thing. You see, so we're always paying a price in that respect for not having made very, very fundamental connections about things at the right age. You know, like there's this argument that guitar teachers like to say that, well, if I start later, won't I just catch up? You know, and you may catch up mechanically, and you may learn to play fast notes, but that is not going to satisfy an audience. You know? I mean, there's a huge leap that needs to be taken here where the guitar community becomes less full of itself and much fuller of the audience. You know, how can we be genuine entertainers?
Start injecting some musicality.
Exactly, and bring them in, draw them into the you know, the conjuring and image power of the guitar,
Well,
which is what Segovia did
Yes.
so consummately well.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the experience that I had in 1958 of attending his wonderful performance in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it just changed my life completely. I mean, it was
Magical.
absolutely transformational experience. You know? And can't think of a guitarist who really would be capable of having that happen. Of course, it's a different world now. But,
No.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'd say the spirit in which you're doing things is definitely helping
Well,
the big picture.
let's hope
Yeah.
so. I'm here. I'm still healthy. I'm working away.